Okay, so good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's meetup. Just a few reminders before we start. Again, this session will be recorded. Also, will be live in our Facebook and YouTube social media accounts. And
recording in progress.
Tonight we'll be having this Tester's Path into Robotic Process Automation by Anthony Garcia. But a little bit about me. I'll be your host for tonight. I'm Richmond, currently a QA team lead in Cambridge University Press and Assessment. So I've been working in the software industry since 2010. I started as a developer and now I'm working as a QA. Recently, I've joined Ministry of Testing PH as a volunteer. Thus, you're seeing me now. And if you'd like to hear more about my stories, just find more about me at writtenandtested.com. For those who are not yet familiar with the Ministry of Testing is the biggest and most supportive global software testing community in the world. It is actually present in 77 cities worldwide. So our vision is that we believe that the more we can get testers coming together, the better chance we have of advancing our industry in a good and positive direction. It started in Cambridge, UK, actually. And for Ministry of Testing Philippines, it started on April 25, 2019 in Asian Institute of Management. So just a few announcements. For September, we'll be having a talk about accessibility, Be Accessible, a guide to accessibility testing. This will be by Rowena Calata, an accessibility champion. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our speaker for today, Anthony Garcia. So Anthony is a technical program manager at UiPath. He has been working in the industry for more than 25 years now, working with RPA and enterprise and data analysis. He's currently living in Philadelphia with his wife and 3 kids. And he also teaches some Padawans, as he call it, to learn more about RPA and computers in general. So Anthony, take it away.
Thank you, Mark. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And make sure I share the sound. All right, and go into presentation mode. Mark, can you see this all right?
Yep.
Great. So thank you to the Ministry of Testing for having me. This presentation is very special to me. I love to share the stories I've had with UiPath. Also, it was great to think about what the entry path would be for testers who wanted to get into robotic process automation. So I've got a little bit of that in my talk. The other thing I wanted to say is that this is the last talk that I am giving in my 40s. I'm going to turn 50 tomorrow. And so entering my 3rd decade, I'm really excited about the future, especially robotics process automation, and I'm glad to share this with you today. But before we start, I want to establish a baseline for those of you who don't know what software robots are. From there, I'm going to talk a little bit about myself and my experiences at UiPath. And I want to run through a personal running example of how companies or how individuals go about thinking about robots, building robots. And finally, I want to talk about UiPath and test teams. One of the things that we say is that we want to make test teams more value center than a cost center. And if you pay attention to this presentation, there'll be a quiz and a giveaway at the end. We're looking to give away some UiPath robot plushies. And so we'll have a quiz to see who has paid attention and can answer the questions fastest. Also, there'll be some Q&A. If you take a look at the chat, there is a link to Slido in case you have questions that come up at any given time. And Mark and the team will be monitoring this Slido and we'll go from there. Anthony, Johnny, and Mark, if there are questions that come up during the Slido that I can answer while I'm presenting, and you see them, please, if you think it's appropriate, just chime in and let me know.
Yep, sure.
So the first thing we'll do is we'll talk about what is UiPath and what is a software robot. So we're going to play this short video and we'll come back after the video plays.
This is a robot. This is a robot. And this is a robot. Robots take the tasks that can be performed by people and
Sorry, play that.
make them more reliable and efficient through automation. UiPath makes software robots, and through robotic process automation, or RPA, people can use these robots to be more productive, more engaging, and more human. Let's walk through a quick use case to see a software robot in action. The UiPath Assistant sits on an employee's desktop and is loaded with automations to improve personal productivity, create departmental efficiency, as well as streamline company-wide operations. In this example, I'm a wealth manager and I'm preparing my weekly portfolio updates for my customers. When it's time to perform my customer prospecting, a reminder pops up and prompts me to start my IPO filing outreach. This is a process that checks recently filed S1s and extracts officers and directors using machine learning. The process begins by asking me to select the date range for the S1s that should be pulled. In this example, the robot works in parallel to me using picture-in-picture, a feature that provides the UiPath Assistant with a perfect copy of my desktop, allowing me to continue my work uninterrupted. While I continue working on my updates, I can watch the attended automation run, or I can minimize it. Once the companies are identified, my UiPath Assistant notifies me and gives me options on how I would like to review and connect with prospects. Because I selected manual review, UiPath Assistant launches the UiPath Validation Station, so I can see and confirm the exact entries from the S1. Remember, I may only have one shot at this introduction. In the final step, the process has checked to see if the extracted contacts exist in Salesforce and Marketo and gives me the option to choose who I want to reach out to. It has also created draft emails for me to review and confirm. I can also see the newly created contacts in Salesforce and Marketo. Our automations are industry agnostic. Whether you're automating a process for individual consumption or enterprise-wide usage, UiPath has you covered. Visit us at uipath.com to learn more.
So that is a robot. Now that we've got that established, I want to talk a little bit about myself and my experience with UiPath. So UiPath is honestly the best job I've had in my career, in my long career. And within here, I've gotten to be able to play different roles. For the first year and a half, I was a pre-sales technical consultant, which means I went out with sales folks and did technical demos to demonstrate the value proposition of robots and building robots for different corporations. One of my highlights here was one of the deals that I had in 2019 was one of the largest, the top 10 largest deals that UiPath had ever had. Now I spend time as a technical project manager where I've done diverse implementations and you know, a couple of them have been a test suite pilot for the government. So we use test suite to do testing robots to test patches that the government was installing in their systems, and a large healthcare invoice processing project where we used artificial intelligence models to read invoices faster and process them for payment. Another thing I work on internally with UiPath is building internal bots. In building internal bots, we practice what we preach. We look at business processes within UiPath itself that take up too much human time when they don't need to, and we build bots to take some of that burden off of our workers. I'm also the project manager for a development team that contributes to our own bot store. So we make useful bots that other people can download and use on their own. Most importantly, as a highlight for working with UiPath, I get to work with talented teammates around the globe daily, and they all embody the same UiPath culture, which is defined in these 4 words: bold, fast, humble, and immersed. I want to go more deeply into the meaning of this and how it translates into building bots by going through a personal example. So what does it mean to be bold? You've got to start with a bold vision. You have a population of people who are doing work that a robot can do, and we want that to take that work away so that they can focus on doing better things. In my case, I've got my oldest daughter is a singer-songwriter. She is an independent artist, and she's had some successes in her career. She has had mentorships with famous people. The bottom person that you see on this chart, Linda Perry, wrote some songs for Christina Aguilera. She's in the Songwriters Hall of Fame. She had a mentorship with her. Alyssa's been performing for a long time. She's performed with famous people and bands, people from American Idol, The Voice, and Crash Test Dummies is a famous band in Canada. And she's had her movie placed in TV and movies. She's had her music placed in TV and movies, and there's a movie coming up on Netflix in October where she'll have a song as well. So she wants to focus on these things and not focus too much on the robotic things she has to do to maintain her outreach. So the bold vision here is, how do we help Alyssa and other creatives? We build a battalion of robots to help creatives so that they can focus on creating. If anyone's watching this and they care to follow Alyssa, please pay attention to this. We are having a quiz later on. This might come in handy to know. Her handle is Alyssa G. Garcia. But business users, they have to do a couple things. They've got to maintain social media presence so that they have a chance of finding other creators to collaborate with, as well as opportunities to do things like find placements in movies or gigs where they can perform, or students that they can teach how to do things that they do well, like songwriting. So I thought of building robots, but before I wanted to build the robot, I wanted to make sure that there wasn't something already out there. It doesn't make sense to spend all that time building something that's already built. So I looked at some competing approaches. One that I found was Social Blade, and it's a great platform, but it only serves people who have an existing large following. I also looked at Hootsuite, which had some of the things that I wanted to do, but it focused mostly on corporations and B2B businesses. So I thought if I wanted to build something to help Alyssa and other creatives, I would need to build a UiPath robot. So let's talk about fast. Fast. After you've done a little bit of learning through basic coursework in building bots, you want to start with a few building blocks to build your vision. And to do that, I thought of a minimum viable product for social media follower tracking. And I want to give a little bit of a demo on this. Mark, am I still sharing my screen?
You can see the PowerPoint currently.
Okay, great. So I want to give a demo that shows UiPath and how we build bots. This is UiPath Studio. In here, I'm going to show you some things about how we build bots. We have activities that we can drag and drop onto a canvas to do some low code development. In this case, I've got a framework that is that is running a process, and if business or system exceptions happen, we're handling those. The main thing I want to show you here is within this, I have a process that I'm running that is going to just simply take a browser. It's going to go to a base website and a handle, and it's going to go to that handle's Instagram page and pull the followers from the page and store that information into a database table. So let's take a look at this in action. What I do here is the process that I do here is I develop this process. I publish this to a centralized scheduler, and then the bot is ready to run. So let me show you what that looks like. So this is the centralized scheduler process. And within here, I've built a few bots. One is called the dispatcher, and one is called the performer. So what does the dispatcher do? Well, in this case, a dispatcher is going to go take a look at a database table called social media bot sign up. And the idea here is artists would sign up for a bot service that would help them follow their social media tracking. In this case, I've got 3 handles and pointing to Instagram that I want to track. So the dispatcher is going to read through this table, and it's going to say, robot, go get the followers for these people for the day. And the performer bot, which I showed you in Studio, is going to go out, open browsers, grab the followers, and record their followers. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you how I run the bot, and you'll get to see kind of what a bot does in real time. So a bot can be triggered on an event, or it can be triggered manually, or it can be triggered based on time. In this case, I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to go to my jobs. I'm going to go to my triggers. Sorry. And you'll see this social media dispatcher bot. And I explained what it's going to do. So I'm going to press play, and I'm going to start this bot, and let me minimize some screens so that we can see what's going on. What you'll see is that the bot is going to put those 3 handles into a table, and it's going to start running some things. And if you watch my screen, you'll see that a browser is coming up. It's taking a look at the Instagram page for Alyssa. Then it's going to close that browser. You're going to see that it's now opening up another Instagram page. And then a third. So what we can see is if we go to the data service and we go to this table called social media followings, and if I take a look towards the end of this table, you can see that we have recorded the followers for Alyssa Richmond and AC Garcia 21. And if I filter on Alyssa, you can see that over time, we're tracking and the followers are changing. If we go to some of the earlier data, you can see that Alyssa had a lot more followers than she did back in June. So that's what it means to be fast. You find something to work on and you build it and you make it work and expand your vision. Now, what does it mean to be humble? Well, if I wanted to do this all on my own, it would take a long time. But if I had more hands to help me, that would be great. So being humble, I'm going to open up my idea to other people who might be interested in helping. And a couple things that I would do for that is I put this code in GitHub. You'll see a link to it later on in the presentation. And that code would be available to others. Another thing that I could do is I could create YouTube tutorials on how to use UiPath and also explain my idea about helping creatives. Third, I give live community talks like this one that I'm giving today. And fourth, have folks who want to help give code reviews and find bugs in the process that you've got. By being humble, it opens you up to other people wanting to help. Lastly, we want to stay immersed. We want to keep on building towards this vision, addressing small and larger obstacles along the way, one bug and one feature at a time. So for my next steps, I want to solicit more ideas and testimonials from artists, solicit ideas from people on what they do and what they need to do that a robot could do, and take testimonials on how this is helping people. I want to add other social media trackers like Twitter and Facebook, Spotify. I also want to create an external interface. You saw the social media sign up table there. I would like to have a web page or a Slack app where people could sign up, and that way that would trigger the robots to start tracking their followers for them. And finally, I want to be immersed and start automating my deployments by creating tests to make sure that my deployment is working every time I create new functionality. Immersed also means doing things in an organized way. What you'll see colored in green here is my Death Star 2.0 architecture. I call it Death Star 2.0 because the first time we tried to do this, my nephew and I, we built things just from scratch. We hacked away at it and it didn't work. So we want to be more organized about how we build things. So that comes to where do testers come in? And I want to spend a little time talking about testing. And I do have a little bit of a demo on this. But first I want to set a baseline by walking through this video. So let's watch this video really quickly.
Automation fuels digital transformation. As such, businesses are automating as fast as they can in pockets across the organization. But when they start to scale, their automations begin to stumble, which leads to more maintenance and slows their progress. Why do they stumble? No standard approach, increasingly complex processes, insufficient testing. That's why we created UiPath Test Suite. UiPath Test Suite combines the world's leading RPA technology with best-of-breed testing capabilities to sustainably accelerate scaling through proactive testing, cross-enterprise collaboration, and a consistent approach to create and deploy automations. UiPath Test Suite helps those who create automations and those who depend on automations. Test teams are typically underfunded and viewed as cost centers. We want to transform test teams into value centers by incorporating their experience and assets into the enterprise automation program while empowering them with unified best-of-breed testing capabilities. RPA teams spend too much time maintaining their automations, which is impeding their ability to scale. We want to allow RPA teams to scale RPA at a sustainable and faster pace, leveraging comprehensive RPA testing capabilities and the ability to reuse existing test automation assets. Finally, by adopting an enterprise approach to automation, we will enable transformation leaders to rapidly create business value while minimizing cost by accelerating automation across the enterprise, allowing the organization to foster organizational agility by leveraging skilled automation resources across the entire enterprise, and deliver higher quality software faster with less risk. Be it testing software applications or testing existing RPA automations, UiPath Test Suite aims to answer your needs for realizing rapid and scalable enterprise-wide automation.
I want to pause here and take a look at the chat. Okay, so yes, question and answers. There's the slide. Okay. So that's where we intend to have testing robots that can help with not only UiPath developed robots, but also with existing other applications, the kinds of things you all work with every day. And I want to emphasize how important this is by taking a look at this slide. So why is scaling automation so difficult? Well, in my example, I want to show you something where my robot doesn't work. So I'm going to stop out of here and show a demo. Mark, my screen is still showing?
Yep.
Okay, so demo-wise, I have, with this bot that I've showed you how we built, I've built some tests. So the tests go like this: given, when, then. Given a certain situation, when I do this, then I want to check something. So I've built two tests, one to send Instagram of Alyssa's page, but also I've built one to try UiPath's Instagram page. And the way it works is I am going to program an input to my robot of UiPath Global and Instagram. I'm going to run my robot process, passing in that handle and that social media site. And then I'm going to verify that the follower count is greater than 0. So a story about this, I was using this running example to teach a fellow UiPather who's non-technical how to build bots. And he tested my application against a Instagram that had a larger following. And what we found is for UiPath Global, when you take a look at the followers, this is no longer a number when the bot pulls the information from here. And the way I wrote the code, it didn't know how to translate this into 11,537. The code worked fine when we were testing examples of people who had followers less than 10,000, but the code broke when we had this kind of followers. So how does this work? Well, we take Studio, we publish the tests onto that same central platform called Orchestrator. And when we go into Orchestrator, we can take a look at the tests. So in this case, I've got tests. I've got test cases. You can see I've got one for UiPath Global. I've got one for Alyssa Garcia. I can run these tests individually by clicking play here, or I can collate these tests together and make a test set. So this test set includes the 2 test cases I've got. And let's take a look by running this test set. And again, I'm going to minimize some screens so you can see what's happening. So you'll see that the tests are running now. It's going to run Alyssa's page and pull the number. The test is going to validate that the number is greater than 0. It's going to do the same thing for UiPath Global. And then we can take a look and see the test results. So right now that the test is running. And if we take a look at the test executions, we can see that the test failed. And if we take a look at the details, the reason the test failed, 1 test passed and 1 test failed. So in all, the overall test set failed. And this is how we can create tests that execute against robots. And as I expand my robot and implement more things, I can schedule tests to run. And when things like this happen, I know that there's something I have to do to fix the new development that I've done. So I want to go after this demo to why is this important? Well, when you're automating things like following your social media following, there can come a point where automation stopped working. In this case, the automation stopped working because the person that I input had way too many followers and the code wasn't built to get that right. And what can happen in that case? Well, organizations right now are less than 15% of the organizations are actually even implementing automations because they're just not looking at their businesses and trying to save time. But for those that do, the excitement can be great in the beginning, but when automations start failing, you hit a turning point. When automation stops working, it disrupts business, it leads to unplanned maintenance, and it drives down return on investment. And where do testers come in this case? Well, if we can implement continuous testing using something like Test Suite, as you've seen in the demo, we can avoid that downturn of the honeymoon period and just keep the excitement and the momentum going for automation. So I want to spend some time showing you what different customers are saying about Test Suite. And this is important too, because as testers yourselves, some of these statements are going to hit home. With this automated testing, one client is finding that the work of 3 testers can be done by 1 testing robot. So what happens when the work for testers decreases? Well, you've got to focus on the important things. Why are we testing? We're testing so that we can help creatives faster in my example. And so where's the important work? To think of tests, not to actually manually execute tests. So improving that ability by taking out the robotic part of your testing job can improve the velocity of your releases. Also, that data that we're recording on testing is tied back to a particular version of the code that I ran. So we've got now a large repository, as the person from Autodesk is saying, is we're storing that test data, and it's making things very easy to analyze when things go wrong and when things go right. So we can speed up development, we can reduce maintenance on our tasks by continually testing, and we can also reuse a lot of these components. The component I used to build the actual robot is also used to do the test. So this is the end of my presentation. I think we're going to go to Q&A, but before that, I want to share a couple things. One is, here's some courses you can take. Our product can be used for free by going to UiPath.com, and you can learn about things like what I've done by going to academy.uipath.com and trying these 6 different courses here. It's fairly straightforward, probably take you 2 weeks to get through these particular courses if you spend some time, and you can see how powerful it could be. I also want to share what's going on in the Philippines. We have a UiPath Manila chapter where you can see the link over here, and some folks you need to know, including Russell and Ferdy. There's their LinkedIn accounts. And also we have a quiz that we want to give you guys to see how well you are paying attention. Russell is prepared to send a UiPath robot plushie your way if you are the top person on this quiz. Russell, are you there?
Yep, I'm here. I'm
Great.
still here.
Great. So the way we're going to work this quiz is we are going to send a link in the chat that you all can follow and answer 4 questions. And while we're doing that, so first of all, Russell will put the link in the chat, and then we can go to questions and answers. Mark, do you have those queued up? Are there any questions on the queue at this point?
Yep, there are a few questions in Slido. So everyone, if you still have questions, feel free to type them in.
Okay, so why don't we give people time to ask some more questions while we go through this quiz. So Russell, if you could put the link to the quiz, and we'll give you a few minutes to answer the questions, and we'll see who's the winner.
So I'm seeing 2 people joining. So I've just kicked off the quiz and I posted the link over to chat, and I see 5 people joining. You can use your mobile, you can use your laptop. So just go to the link or go to menti.com and type in this code if you don't want to click on the link. Okay. And just for everyone to appreciate what they will be receiving, so the top 2 quizzers will be winning this limited edition plushies. Limited edition, literally and figuratively, because you cannot see this anywhere. So yeah, you'll be receiving the top 2 pass test, and yeah.
Great, and just as a caveat, if there's anyone internationally online, we're only shipping the plushies to folks in the Philippines, but you can definitely still participate in the quiz, and at least bragging rights for being one of the top 2 will be yours.
Yeah. So I'll be starting the quiz in 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3. Start.
Great.
So you should be starting the first question.
And how are the
Yeah.
question and answer coming along, Mark?
There are a few now. Maybe we can have it after the
Yeah.
quiz.
Maybe Anthony, let me share my screen as well so they can see us.
Sure, let me
Those
stop
are
sharing
yeah.
mine.
So hope you can all see my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes,
Yes, I
Russell?
can.
Yep. So we've just had our first question. And yes, 13 of you got the correct answer and 4 didn't. And let's see who's leading.
Sorry, I made that one kind of tricky.
Yeah. Let me. Oh, sorry. Hold on. Let me. Yeah. The leaderboard. So Carl, Swinning, whoever you are. So that's for the first question. And let's go to the second question. What does not impede corporations from scaling their automation effort? And here are your choices. So key in your answers. Thumbs up. And we have 5 correct answers from the group. Let's see who's winning. Is it still Carl? Okay, wow. Nice. So let's go to the third one. Or fourth. Yeah, I think this is a final one. I may
There's
have
an important question. I want to make sure it gets in there.
yeah, I may have skipped that one. Sorry, multiple. Let me just let's do that as for the last one.
Okay.
We may have we can go back. Thumbs up. And let's see who's leading. So this is the third question. Let me go back to the second one, which we've skipped. I think the more important one is
At
I
least for
may have
me, it is.
I may have clicked. So so the good thing with this is the stats are stored. So let me stop sharing and go back to the next the question we've skipped. So let me yeah. So let me share again.
Thanks, Russell.
So this is the final question. Tiebreaker.
This is a tough one. This may make or break the winner. Oh,
Oh, nice. And let's see who's the final winner. top two. We'll be getting the top two. So the winners are Carl with the emoji, heart emoji, and Dars. So the two of you will be getting this limited edition plushie. So just so reach out to me via the email that Anthony has shown earlier, or I'll post it also on the chat. So to set up the logistics, courier, and how we can send you over, so I can get your details. Yep.
Congrats, Doris and Carl.
Congrats, Durs and Carl.
Do we also have limited edition plushies? Just kidding. Okay, so now let us now proceed
So
with the
Richmond, yeah,
questions.
let's look at the questions.
So I'm gonna read this one. These two are related. The first question for you is: can RPA replace traditional functional test automation tool? And there's a similar question as well, which asks: will UiPath replace Selenium in future, which is one of the famous automation tools?
Yes.
Mm.
So I can take that. I'm going to take the questions in reverse. So first of all, can UiPath replace Selenium? Right now, we do everything Selenium does, right, Russell? And in many cases, we find that our taking of screens and finding the selectors on screens to click on different items is more resilient, because we do not depend on an image-based approach. We look at the backend application, the backend application structure to get information. In a lot of cases, we have a much more advanced way of picking different buttons and grabbing data from different screens and manipulating different screens that way. So yes, we already are very competitive with Selenium. And the first question mark again?
Can RPA replace the traditional functional test automation tool?
So we are aiming to, and we have set our sights on different test tools. Like we were competing against Russell, can you name a few that we're looking to compete against?
Yes. So
go ahead.
Yeah, we do have actually not only in functional testing, but as in other types of testing, like including mobile testing capabilities. We do have those. That's why in general UiPath, like vendors like Tricentis. I don't have on the top of my mind other competitive.
Actually,
testing.
Tricentis is the one that we competed with on one of my projects.
Yeah.
And let me just show this screen really quickly. I'm going to share my screen here. Just for the purposes of the video, this is our structure. We don't invent every functionality of a test suite, but we integrate with things like Postman, Sauce Labs, as well as CI/CD tools like Jenkins, so that we can have a complete solution. And we do intend to be competitive with regards to working as a test automation program. Next question, Richmond.
Yep. So the next question is from FD. I think this is related with your demo earlier. Is it necessary to minimize all the applications when the job is running? And also, can UiPath execute jobs simultaneously?
The answers to both are no. I do not have to minimize the screens, but for me, it's a clean way of doing things because if you can imagine, I might have multiple robots running multiple pages over time. And just for me, the way I was thinking about it is it would be cleaner for me to close the browser instead of closing a tab and reopening a tab. So you don't necessarily have to do it, but for me, it works better when I think of things and clean up after myself. So that's the way I developed it. And with regards to the second question, Mark, what was it again?
Can UiPath execute jobs simultaneously?
Yes. So if I had 5 laptops in my house here, I had 5 licenses to UiPath, I could have the robot trigger the job and run on each of the different laptops and take one of the individual of the 3 that I ran, and the Mark, Alyssa, and myself could be running on each of the laptops. So that way it scales. So scalability is just a matter of adding machines that the robots can jump onto.
Okay.
If I can also add, Anthony, so uh, there's also a way you can execute jobs in one machine simultaneously.
That's true too.
Yep, definitely. One way is through what we call background processes. So you can mark a job as a background if it does not interact with UI elements. So headless sort of type of automation. So interacting with APIs. So you can have multiple background processes running as long as you have the sufficient licenses, unattended licenses running on that machine. And the other one is if you have a server, you can deploy robots um, in a high density mode or high density environment where each robots in that one machine or server has their own session.
That's right.
Yep.
Thank you for that, Russell and Anthony. Next question. So what is the competitive advantage of UiPath? What is unique with UiPath?
That's a great question, and I have a slide that I want to share about that. One of the big things about UiPath that I want to share, and hey, am I sharing my screen?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay, so one of the things I want to share about UiPath is because of our culture, bold, humble, immersed, and fast, we're very open to taking ideas from everyone we interact with. And what's happened over the last couple of years, it's been phenomenal. We used to be a platform of just building robots, build, manage, and running robots. And what's happened is we've realized that we need to reach into other areas in order to expand the vision of rebooting work, of automation first, by having tools that let us discover what processes are possibly candidates for that kind of automation, as well as on the back end, engaging people in different ways, not just through unattended robots, but also things that, as you saw in the first video of the presentation, things that work alongside you in a picture-in-picture mode that can do all of those things that you don't need to do as a human, so that you can focus on targeting customers and things like that, as well as measuring how much return on investment a robot is giving us. So we've built out a platform over time, and we continue to do that. The test suite that you saw is just another example of things that we realize as a company is needed. So we are growing the art of removing robots from people very fast. And what you'll see here is you'll see that no other company is doing it that fast, and that's why we like to say that we're one of the fastest growing automation companies that exists.
Mm.
Russell, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think that's pretty good.
Yep. More questions, Mark? How
Yep.
many more do we
There's
have?
still a lot to hear. So there's 10 questions. Maybe we'll
Okay.
still have maybe for around 3 to
Thank you.
5. Let's see.
thank you for asking all the questions. If there's anything we end up not answering, Mark will get back to me, and we'll get back to you with more. But I've got plenty of time. I know we're 3 minutes left before the top of the hour, but hopefully we can get through some more questions.
Okay. So the next most popular question in here, going back to your career, can you share your career path as a UiPath developer? How did you start? And maybe industries you've been to because of UiPath. And also, how did you end up with UiPath as a company?
Yes, that's an interesting story too. I'm glad somebody asked that. So UiPath for me, if you've ever watched the movie Forrest Gump, he's done some extraordinary things, but they all seem like big accidents. And I think UiPath for me has been that way as well. Well, first of all, when I went to college, I wanted to do computers because my mother bought me a computer when I was 11, and I'm turning 50 tomorrow. So you can imagine how long I've been doing this. But when I went to college, the first couple computer courses I took, because they were heavy on calculus, I actually failed. And so when I had to pick a major, I chose English. But that has been a blessing in disguise, because with knowing computers, I eventually got into the computer science program, but I also double majored in English. With knowing how to speak and also knowing how to program, I found my way into the world, and I did a lot in my career up front, working with different companies and in business analysis and programming roles. I jumped around a lot of different companies because honestly, I got bored after a while with certain companies and I wanted to try other things. One of the best things I ever did was I stopped being a developer, and for a short time, about 20 years ago, I went into a sales engineering role and learned how to do selling of software. And that has made all the difference, because when I was working at a pharmaceutical company as an analytics, elite analytics person, a recruiter called me and said, "Would you like to join UiPath? They're a very fast-growing company. They do software robots." I was like, "I'm in analytics. I don't know anything about software robots." And they said, "Well, you have a good amount of different skills, including sales engineering, and we really think you would do good at this job." And that's where it started. And I've every day tried to use my English skills from my English degree to explain things as best as I can. I try to work on being able to speak extemporaneously to different groups of people, and that's how it happened, and it's been great. I'm sure Ferdy and Russell have very similar stories.
And maybe let's have 2 more questions. So if you'd like to vote the questions you want, please do. I'm going to read the next one. Traditionally, automated testing has been a poor fit for testing new functionality. Do you think the question's gone. I think it has been removed. Okay, let me repeat that. Traditionally, automated testing has been a poor fit for testing new functionality. Do you think RPA can succeed in this area?
Well, that's a great question. Can automated testing succeed in this area? If you can see kind of the approach that came out of my one example, if we are creating tests that people are thinking up, if we can teach enough people how to use a tool like UiPath, those ideas are going to come from many places. So we are not automating the thought process of creating tests. We are only automating the execution of the test. And we are only automating the idea that when you execute these tests, if certain things fail, then we need to go back and work on fixing the robots or fixing the applications even. So if we can take away the robot out of the human in terms of testing, so that you're not actually manipulating the test, but are only thinking of what kind of test would be useful, I think that's a great way towards speeding up, as we saw, speeding up development, and also not only speeding up development, but also getting rid of that stigma that building robots or building applications is very expensive and very time consuming and doesn't do enough to help the business or help individuals. So what we're talking about here is just this idea that if we can make this a smoother process, people and momentum will be more towards us, and we'll be building things faster, and we'll be building things that really deliver on value, and we will address the things that slow down momentum. So I really believe that doing things in this way will definitely help. One of the things UiPath does a lot of is to create a large group of citizen developers. You don't have to be a strong developer. We've built a separate tool that's easier for non-technical people to build robots. And also, you know, if we incorporate that into all of this, I think many more people are going to be able to contribute to the overall ease and trajectory of testing, of getting testing to be more of a value center than a cost center. Hope that answers the question.
Yep. And I think this is the last question for the night. So for the other questions, maybe we can forward it to you.
Okay, sure.
Yep. And this one is specific to CAPTCHA. Can UiPath automate if there's CAPTCHA in login of an application?
Yes. So I'll say this: we have it is technically possible to address CAPTCHA. It is not necessarily ethically the right thing to do to automate that. And this is our company line. We will not do unethical things. We will give you a tool, and if you look up on the internet, there's ways to do it, but it's not necessarily an ethical thing, especially if you look at the usage statements, the legal statements that you see when you join a website. Those things might prevent you from doing things like that, but it's technically possible.
Yeah. Okay, I think that wraps up our August meetup. Again, for the winners, do reach out to Russell. And before we end, just a reminder about our meetup next month. So again, next month we'll be having a talk about accessibility, Be Accessible, a guide to accessibility testing, about from Rowena Calaton. Again, thank you, Anthony Garcia, for being with us tonight. Thank you, Russell, and the rest of the UiPath community. Thank you, Johnny,
Thanks,
for
Ferdy. Thanks, everyone.
Live
Thanks,
stream.
Russell.
And thank you, everyone, for joining. See you next meetup.